Well, welcome to BARC Festival, the International Architecture Film Festival Barcelona. And first of all, I would like to thank Cosentino for having us in this wonderful space, Cosentino City, Barcelona. Just don't miss it if you go to Barcelona. The festival started yesterday with parallel activities like the one we are presenting now. What we are going to watch and debate about are the Minute series by the Dutch architecture firm Kaan Architecten. And what they did is to choose 12 buildings that Kaan Architecten did in the past and ask 12 different international directors to produce 12 short films. These short films, apart from being short films, the way I see it, are pieces of art, as you will see. They are done with in a very creative way and in a very unique way. The way Minutes, this series, links architecture in cinema is very special, and that's why we have them here. Let me introduce the rest of the participants first. Kees Kaan, co-founder and principal and co-founder of the Dutch architecture firm Kaan Architecten. Hello, Kaan. Kees Kaan.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. Martina Margini, film programmer and independent curator specialized in cinema and architecture, head of communications of Kaan Architecten. Hi, Martina. And the three directors, it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you. First of all, Joana Colomar, director of music videos and commercials. Hello, Joana.
Hi.
Miguel Tavares, independent filmmaker that has collaborated with musicians, composers, artists, etc. Hi, Miguel.
Hello.
And Benita Vlog, director, camerawoman, and editor.
Hi, everybody.
Hi. So the event structure will be the following. We will have first a short interview with Martina and Kees Kaan to talk about the Minute series, this unique project. And after that, we will see each short film. And after each short film, we will have a small debate with the directors. And in the end of the session, the audience can participate through the YouTube chat for a Q&A. So the audience can already start sending questions through the YouTube channel. So without more delay, let's start with the Minutes teaser. I mean that just by watching the teaser, you see the beauty of the shots, and you can imagine the feeling that I was trying to transmit when I said that they are pieces of art. My first question will be for Kees Kaan. Why does an architecture studio use audiovisuals? Is it just another communication tool, or?
It is another communication tool for sure, yes. It's different from any other possibility that we have been using so far, like very good photography. But it's not just another visual method. It's also related to our way of looking at architecture. For me, architecture is a product of change. It's following change, fast changes in society that are sort of followed up with slow projects. This changing world around it is a permanent condition in which we work. And our projects sort of measure time, you could say. And the question for me is not what we think or what is our opinion of those changes, but rather how we assert ourselves in these changing conditions. For me, architecture is by nature dialectic. It's inclusive and relational. Absolutely not autistic or autonomous. So we work with clients, we work with stakeholders, and a project is developed along a dialogue with many people involved. So each project is a journey, and it has its own narrative. That narrative is developed very often by us as designers, and it allows other people to join this journey, you could say. And since we are working very long on projects, I mean, that can go up to 20 years, like in the example of the Museum of Beautiful Art in Antwerp, but 10 years is also very normal. These projects stay a very long time with us, and we hear these stories every day. It's like haunting us, you could say, as the project evolves. And at the end, we believe the stories. So there's a sort of spell in the project. There's a ghost in the project. And we like to test those projects, not just by making photos, architectural photos, but by, and also not the clients using it, but by having another kind of criticism. So another story, a fresh story with fresh eyes and fresh minds that go in and give their own completely independent impression. And by doing that, they sort of expel the ghost of the architect, you could say. So it's also to let the projects go, to release them in that sense.
Uh-huh. And what do you expect to happen with these videos? What's I mean, the series is very new, right? I don't know if it's already open, all the short films, or you still have some, but it's quite new, so you don't know exactly what's going to happen. What do you expect to happen with them?
Well, Martina will explain how new it is and how long we worked on it, because for us it's not new at all, of course. And but it will get its own audience. We decided to give it its own website and not see it as a sort of portfolio thing of Kaan Architecten, but really give it an independent position. As I said, architecture is slow by nature. We design for an echo, you could say. We always design for the wrong question, I tell my students, because we begin at some moment in time, and by the time the building is finished, the world has changed entirely. It went through 2 economic crises, a pandemic, and I don't know how many other things. So this is something that is really, say, the problem of our.
I think we missed Kes. Well, while we recovered him, I have a question for you, Martina. I'm very curious about the process, because you can see the production is amazing. I mean, it's every detail is very well done. Can you tell us about the process, please?
Yes, sure.
The search of especially the search of directors. How did you choose them?
You have me back?
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. So we go back to Kes. Sorry, Martina.
Sorry.
Yeah, Kes, go on. No. Okay.
Technical problem.
Yeah. Let's go for Martina. Please tell us about the process.
I go back to what also Kes said before. So this is not a new project for us, because we started to think about it in 2017. So it's 4 years ago. And as everything also in architecture, it takes quite a while, you know. Of course, it takes less than building a building, you know, an architectural project, but it's a consistent amount of time and also like energy and some motivation, you know, to also understand what to do, because it's quite
Hello.
I don't think that other architecture firm already at this journey of try to develop a series of films that were initiated by themselves, you know, like so founded completely by the company, you know, within their own communication strategy. So we communicated, we worked together with 12 different directors, as you said, Savi, and in order to have a sort of portfolio of 12 completely different films that were talking about 12 different buildings. How I chose the director, it went a bit by serendipity, let's say, also, because it was a good moment in time. I could find a good match with a certain director. Some other I discovered by myself online, some other I knew, kind of. So it all went a bit naturally. And I asked the director if they were up to collaborate with us in this kind of format, because every film has a certain format. As a short film, they're all less than 10 minutes long. And in each of them, we discuss about a different project. But we gave them quite some carte blanche, so quite some freedom. And they were free to propose like the concept that they wanted to have, you know, and develop. And it was in an open discussion with us. And we really were keen on discovering new side and new perspective about our projects that were not, as Kes said, the one that we always tell, you know, over and over all the time. When we present the building. So it's definitely this that we were searching, you know, new perspective, diversity of language, you know, and another completely new vision on the buildings that we are so much used to see, and we think we know really well, but that actually perhaps we don't know so well as we want. So the building gets their own life once they are out there, you know, they are delivered to the public. They are not anymore of the architects, you know, they're not anymore your baby. They're out there and they live their own life. So that's also what we want to show with this film and the collaborations.
So, Kes, good to have you back. I missed the point where you were. Do you remember where you were? We cannot hear you now. We cannot hear you now.
I almost
Okay.
finished my answer to the second question, but I think Martina just answered it sort of that. I would say the videos put the project back in reality, in the actualiteit, the actuality, in today, because the projects have been with us so long and they started so long ago with ideas from the past and realities from the past. And of course, you, as an architect, try to make a project that is sustainable and durable and that can last the next 50 years or whatever. But it's born out of old ideas, always by nature. And it's very nice to then sort of assert this new vision in it, or put this new eyes in it, and give it a fresh start with that. And that is was our objective, and of course to learn from that, to understand better this phenomenon of time and what it does with our projects and with our expectations, and how we can then learn from it for our next projects.
Okay, I think we can go further deeper in these aspects when we comment each short film. I don't know, Martina, if you want to say anything more before introducing the first short film.
No, I think for the first short film.
Okay.
Hello again. I will start with introducing Joanna and her films. She graduated at the Audiovisual Communication Universitat Politécnica de Valencia and then completed her studies between Lisbon and Barcelona, where she also began her career in advertising industry and as a casting director. Since then, she worked as advertisement director, but also on some music videos. I discovered Joanna because of her film Rosa, which competed at the Simon Prize Living Places in 2018 and won the prize. And that's exactly the year that I contacted her and asked her to join the project. And I proposed her to work on Utopia, the Library and Academy for Performing Arts. This architectural project is quite a special one because it merges really different programs and requirements. On one hand, you have the library, which required quite some tranquility and silence. And on the other hand, you have quite noisy Academy for Music and Dance. So you have an extrovert and social character. Joanna was, of course, really thrilled by the liveliness of this location at the first time we visited together. And I think this shows quite well in the movie. So I propose that we start seeing it.
is ongelooflijk wat de stad hier gedaan heeft. Ik vind dat mooi.
Utopia is ontmoeten en gezellig samen zijn met een hele bende verschillende mensen.
Dat iets groter te doen. Goed nadenken, zijn getallen, maar dat maakt niet uit. Dat gaat kloppen. 1, 1, 2, 1.
1, 1, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 1.
Oh, stop, stop.
Utopia is nieuw, Utopia is cool, Utopia is modern, Utopia is het verleden en de toekomst.
Drie, vier.
Utopia is stilte.
Muziek.
Utopia is stilte. Utopia is muziek. Utopia is stilte en muziek.
Stilte en muziek.
Utopia is het verleden. Utopia is de toekomst. Utopia is het verleden
En de toekomst.
Stilte. Stilte. Muziek.
Utopia is stilte.
Utopia is muziek.
Utopia is stilte en muziek. Verleden.
Toekomst.
Utopia is de toekomst. Utopia is verleden. Utopia is de toekomst. Utopia is het verleden en de toekomst. Utopia is het verleden en de toekomst.
Utopia is stilte. Utopia is een eiland.
Okay, so Joanna, congratulations for the work. My first comment is about the editing. I think it's amazing, and it's a great example of the importance of editing. I remember my editing teacher in the film school that used to say, half joking, that cinema equals to editing. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, sure. For sure, editing is one of the most important processes when talking about and doing filmmaking. I mean, it's like rewriting the script. It's like you write the script again at the end of the process once you have shoot everything, and you know, especially when you do work on documentary, as I did for this movie, you build the meaning mostly at the end of the piece. You can have everything prepared, and you can have an idea of what do you want to, you know, to shoot and to tell, but at the end of the day, as everything is non-prepared because you are shooting like real life, then editing becomes a very important process. And that's why I trusted Aitor Vigas so much, which is my editor. And also I wanted to, I mean, editing is also about combining images, you know, and creating new meanings, and it helped me a lot talking about these opposites I wanted to portray here, which is silence and music, and how these two very opposite concepts really coexist in perfect harmony in Utopia building.
And now that you say sound and music, the sound is excellent. Can you? I mean, you can see that there's a lot of ideas and work behind that. Can you explain us a bit about the sound mixing and recording?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of sound, I mean, I wanted to do like a very playful piece. So as I explained, I mean, it really surprised me how Utopia combined silence and music as is a library and also an academy of music and art. So I did it, for example, the sequence of the accordion scene. You can, while you see her, you listen to the students outside, and then when you see the students, then you hear her. So I tried to make like a playful editing, let's say. And regarding music, is like, you know, I've been involved in music all my life, and I'm very passionate. So I used to play piano and sing in a choir. So somehow it's like a homage to my childhood. And when I arrived there and I saw all these people just, you know, like doing music, I just put my attention there. In fact, the last song, let's say the spoken word song, is inspired by the geographical fugue, like a piece I used to sing. So yeah.
Okay, and my last question is about the appearance of the film, the texture and the format. Why did you choose that?
Well, we chose to shoot in 16 millimeters, which is analog film, and this is a very risky decision because, you know, like when you do documentary, it's like everything happens, so anything is planned. And we were shooting with children, and they spoke a very difficult language, which is flamenco. So it was like, you know, very risky because we only had 5 cans, which means like 50 minutes to shoot the whole piece. So it was risky, but it worth it because 16 millimeters gives you this nice texture and light, and, you know, like it is a little bit romantic, but I really like this format.
Okay, then it's better than I thought, because I didn't know. I thought it was like a post-production effect. It's real 16 minutes. Okay, I didn't know this. Okay, great.
Yeah,
Martina, do you have?
It was very, very risky. Like,
yeah.
Cut. We are running out of film, you know, like.
Okay, Martina, do you have a last question for Joanna?
I think indeed the challenge for this film was fitting everything on one day of shooting, you know, because we had specific amount of reels, you know, available, and you had to fit it in. I think that what's the thing that stimulates you the most? I think I know kind of the answer, but perhaps it's good that you share it. How did you select actually what you put on reels instead of other things, you know, about the building or the city, you know?
That's a question?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, You mean that why I chose to shoot this, no, and not the other thing?
Because I can really see, as I said in the introduction, that you really try to capture the liveliness of the building,
Yeah.
you know, and the people. So why this struck you so much, you know?
Yeah, it's like I let the building speak to me, you know, like I didn't have like any preconceived idea before I visited the place.
Yeah.
Of course, I knew about the building and stuff, but once I arrived there, I saw that this building was so full of life, and you know, like it's like we had to do it that way. I mean, I mean, I understand architecture because I'm not an architect. You know, like spaces to be lived, let's say, or inhabited. So I'm interested on that part of the architecture most than form, or you know, like another aspects of architecture. Like living architecture is what interests me the most.
Exactly. I think this can lead us also to connect your film to the next one, also because what I missed before and I didn't say in my introduction is why I chose the 3 films we are gonna see, you know. So I picked the movie of Joanna, the one of Miguel, and the one of Benita because the 3 of them have completely different way to portray the building. I mean, all the 12 films of Minutes have, but these 3 in particular tonight because we can see, for example, Joanna, almost we don't really see so much of the building, but you still could capture the emotion of the building. And in the next ones, we're going to see a completely other way of storytelling, of conceptualizing a building. Yeah. So I think I can pass to the next introduction.
Thank you.
So hi again. I will introduce you to the second screening with Miguel Tavares. Miguel was born and raised in Porto, where he works also nowadays as an independent filmmaker and a visual artist after having studied at the FAUP in Porto, the Architecture University. Together with Ana Rezende and Tiago Costa, he worked recently on the construction of Villa Alem, a film that follows the construction of a house by Valerio Olgiati and the Alentejo coast, which was also shown at the Biennale of Venice in 2018. Miguel also often collaborates with other disciplines other than film and architecture. In 2019, he spent 10 days on a cargo ship, Corvo, with the composer José Alberto Gomes, traveling from Portugal to Azores Island. This project culminated with a live performance at the Walk and Talk Festival with the piece East Atlantic. So being trained as an architect, he has a great sensibility towards space, and this shows quite well in the movie that we will see, Floating Stillness. The movie has been shot during a national lockdown in France in November last year. The original idea that Miguel shared with me 1.5 years prior to the shooting, that was when we discussed first the concept, was impossible to maintain during the lockdown. So then we decided still to use the building as a main character. He decided to use the building as a main character and wisely make use of the sound to evoke certain feelings. So let's watch the movie first.
Nous avons tous été surpris par l'accélération soudaine de l'épidémie. Quoi qu'il arrive, reste unis et solidaires. Et nous faisons de la division. Nous leur devons de prendre toutes les précautions pour éviter la propagation du virus. Si nous ne le faisons pas pour nos proches, sans jamais perdre de vue un principe intangible, pour nous, rien n'est plus important que la vie humaine.
So, Miguel, congratulations. Great short film again. One of the main features of this short film is this constant movement of the camera, like floating. Does it links with the title of the film?
Yeah,
Why
of
floating?
course. Because this, like Martina said before, this movie changed a lot. It was a very long process, and like the film of Joanne is about people, no, like about the use of the film that we saw before, and my film, it's about this absence of people, no, about this period that we are living in. And my idea, first of all, because this building is also about gathering a lot of different people, my idea before was also doing a film about people, about this gathering, about the people that use this building. But when we decided to film it, it was impossible because of the period that we were living it. So we had a lot of restrictions, and this concept of floating, no, this idea is about this this time that is suspended, no, in that building. That it seems that something that we are waiting for something to come, and we are on this standby moment, no. And this concept or idea of floating is we are floating in this time, no, in this period. So we are moving around the building, and we almost can listen to this building that is breathing or is waiting for people to come again. So it was a little bit about this concept.
I'm very curious about the whole creative process. How did it work? The commission from Kaan Architecten. How did you work together? Can you explain us about a bit the whole process of creation of this short film?
In my case, it was I think in more cases, it was a very long process. Like the first time that Martina came to me was, I think, in 2017. If I'm not wrong, yeah. And so we started to talk and to share some thoughts, and then Martina told me, okay, you have to work with this project. So we scheduled a visit to the building. So this was before 2020, no? So the building everything was working, no? Everyone was very happy in that moment. So I started working with this to think about my ideas, to write a script, to share with Martine, and then she was giving some feedback about it. And when we decided, okay, we are ready to shoot, the pandemic came, so we had to like the building to be on this standby moment, to wait a little bit. Then there was this gap to go there to film, and we had to put a lot of intuition because we had to change. The script was completely the opposite. So we were there, me, Martina, and Luis, my DOP. During this lockdown in France, everything was closed. No one could go around, walk around. So we had to film a lot of intuition to, okay, let's do this. Let's film like this way. Yeah, that was like this.
Martina, first, now you can ask if you have a question, but first of all, I would like to remind the audience that they can participate in through the YouTube chat with the final Q&A that will happen after after we see the last short film. Go on, Martina, if you have any question.
I think, Miguel, perhaps you can tell us a bit more how you decided to work with the sound in your film. You know, because it's also you try to also use the sound to kind of fill up the space, right?
Yeah, that's it. No, it was. I think in my case, it was really important to work with sound. So we didn't have like people on the building, so I wanted to bring this memory, of the building to my film. So sound. I work with my friend composer Zé. We worked like side by side at the moment. So I was working, editing, sending back to him. He was sending it back to me again. So it was like this kind of fight. And it was very important. So sound takes a very important role in my movie because it emerges to unveil this inner soul of the building, and creates this immersive experience of this empty space. So we always see the building empty. So sound brings this new memory, this old memory of the building.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's this fusion of these elements, like with music, with ambience, with effects that are connected and mixed. So it's very important to illustrate the life of spaces without a vision correlation. So we see empty spaces, but we can listen to the sounds of it.
Yeah, and I think this really testify of how much it counts the current situation, the circumstances when we actually go and proceed and doing a project like this, filming a building. So how much it changes if we would have filmed like 1 year ahead, like to 2020, how much your film would have been different, So I think this is an infinite exercise, like it was quite an exercise of improvisation also from your side, and to be there and try to think, okay, let's gather material, let's go by feeling, and then at the end in the editing process, everything emerges, also with the sound. that complements it so much. I think this is a good example, indeed, as I was saying before with Joanna, of another completely different way to film the building. And now we are going to pass to another way again with Benita. So thank you, Miguel, for talking with us. So again, Benita is a South African director. She's a camera woman and an editor from Cape Town. She graduated in documentary filmmaking, and since then she worked internationally on independent films, documentary, commercials, music, and fashion films. I met Benita in Maputo in the summer 2019 to shoot Crafted. We had just 5 days available and no site visits prior to filming, so it was a quiet improvisation. The genesis of the film took way longer than expected, as our goal was to film the embassy of the Netherlands, and this is a quite remote country, so everything together make it quite hard to organize. Our team was composed just by 3 women. It was Benita, the director and camerawoman, Annalette, the assistant director, and myself. Once on site, we were amazed by the color of Maputo and positively impressed by the embassy's presence, which even after 15 years of the complexion, it was still such a powerful building in the city. Well, the craftsmen that we met and the workshop we visited shaped quite a lot the film that you're gonna see in a special way. So I propose that we dive into the film and then we discuss with Benita later on.
Buildings don't explain themselves from the outside, you know. Form comes out of the logic of the material. Creating is a very sort of ambitious word for what we do. We just make things, you know. The materials are your manipulations. There's a dimension in architecture that's very important. The dimension of the humanity of materials itself. They make your building more warm to human feelings. Well, I describe it as the most essential of considerations. The humanity of the urban space. You feel that something is not right. And maybe you need to employ more people, not less people. If we use more those kind of materials that are natural, that you need more craftsmen to think differently, to think better, to think deeper, more intelligent, more rational. One should always try to make things that are so much in tune with your day and age that they will resist the passing of time. We fortunately still have this level of intervention to manipulate the way society lives, which has to be different from before. But that makes sense. There's no time. So, you know, we can do something about it if we're intelligent in the way we use things as a manipulator of form and space. Creating a tradition of working with people.
Okay, so congratulations again to you, to all of you. To me, the main feature of this short film is the point of view. You highlight the craftsmanship, yeah, right? The hands. Can you tell us about this decision?
Yeah, yeah, nice to be here. Yeah, so really it came out of a conversation when I first spoke to Vincent, the architect of the building itself, and the whole process of creating this building, all the way from sitting in the Netherlands and having a team of people in Maputo, which is very far away in Africa, how to put that all together. So there's a lot of trust, and there was a lot of relationships that needed to be built with the craftsmanship and the people that are on the ground. So there was a long process, and as he was telling me the story of that, that's really what drew my attention, was this relationship with a craftsman. And then because, this is the first time I've been commissioned to make a film about a building. I think my intuition is just to kind of find stories and things. And this one really felt like something that I personally just that I was curious about, and that really stood out for me. So was to look at the hands that make these buildings. And from the beginning, when I came up with the concept and pitched it back to Kaan, to Martina and Vincent, it was an idea around really just focusing on the hands that make it, on details of the building, and kind of looking at the elements that go into creating this particular building, because obviously we can't go back in time and film it actually being made. I was looking at concrete, wood, and steel, like the biggest elements that this actual building was crafted from. And that's kind of just stayed really focused on that. Once we got there and started filming, I never filmed anyone's faces or anything else. I didn't steer away from the concept. And just kind of stuck to that discipline of like filming the hands that made it. And it was a really, really interesting kind of organic process, and how it came together once you put a concept into action. So yeah.
And I guess this decision, it links with the decision of making this kind of very sensorial shots and very unique point of view, like very close and just one focus line. Is it linked to the hands, this kind of shots?
Yeah, I mean, so I just wanted to keep it quite graphic, because obviously I wanted to be relatable to any building and to any hands that craft all these things. So it's representative of a much larger narrative that I feel is worth talking about, and just being curious about the hands that the people that build our buildings. And then when it came to kind of the final decision, once we were done filming, when I said to Martina, I really have a feeling I need to make this film black and white, because, between the textures of the hands and all the different things, it's going to give it a platform to live together on one kind of plane visually, so that you're looking at like graphic textures of building, graphic textures of hands, and it feels like it's talking together. So that's more or less what it was. And yeah, you definitely, my choice of framing and being right in there as it's creating, that was for you to feel it. And that gave us also space for the sound design to make it really interesting and bring it into a space where it felt very tactile. So yeah, we had a lot of fun in creating the sound for it and really bringing it to life in post.
Yeah, the sound design is amazing. Maybe we can talk about it later. But what amazes me most, or one of the things that amazes me most of this short film, is the voiceover, this narrator. How did you finding who is him, and why does he is not? Why do you don't show him?
It was a real bit of fortune that we had. Initially, I really thought that I knew that I wanted a voice that can represent kind of the craftsman. and I thought maybe the foreman of the building, or somebody that was in charge that know the craftsmen and that can speak of that could be the right person. And somehow that just didn't happen. But we ended up being in contact with José Forjas, which was already a privilege to be speaking to him about our visit there. He was involved in this project a little bit. He's a very well-known Mozambican architect. I mean, he's kind of iconic in his own way. He's at the time we were there, he was 83. He's 85 now. So he's had a lifelong career of making a name for himself, and you should read up about him. He's amazing. Look at his buildings. So I already knew of his work going there and kind of thought that he was quite impressive. And it just so happened that he had been in contact with Kaan Architects before, obviously about this building coming to Maputo, and he participated by Kaan Architects, asked him to, build design some of the furniture that goes into the building itself, which was a really beautiful collaboration from him and kind of like a further local stamp of craftsmen and local flavor into the building, which is what I love about Kaan Architects and how they've worked on this whole building, and the conversation about local. So anyways, we got an opportunity to meet him, and we took the sound recorder with, and at this point we didn't know if we would have any other voiceovers, and we had a conversation with him for an hour, and it was absolutely fortuitous that he gave us his time and his wisdom, and I got to speak to him about all the kind of themes that I wanted to explore in this film. And he was so generous in what he gave us that I was able to, from his own words, create the story. And I had his full blessing to use his voice and make it into the kind of story that represents the craftsman as I envisioned. So beautiful voice, wise man, elder. He was perfect, and we were very blessed to have him. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it works quite well in giving, let's say, external view perspective. It's not like the same as if you will ask the architects of the building to speak about their own architecture. This puts really like the project in context, and that's why I think it works so well. In its simplicity. Of the idea of showing really the hands that build the nation. This other person that we don't forcefully know who he is, from the beginning. You don't see the face, but you just hear the narration. We see his hand at the end, of course, in the film. So it's all like, let's say, putting together some clues that, of course, it's a fiction. So it's not the real hand that built that building, but that's also part of the whole narration. So it comes together. So thank you very much.
Yeah. So I think we can go for the final Q&A. I remind the audience that they can participate through the YouTube chat. Before I have maybe a question, I don't know if I think Benita, it was you who said that you had film architecture before.
No, I haven't.
Okay.
No, this was my first.
Okay. So I start with you. How has been the experience shooting architecture? Is it a challenge? Is it nice?
I mean, I must say, when Martina first contacted me, that was in probably the beginning of 2019 or end of 2018. It was also a process to actually go, but I was really excited about the idea. Especially in this way in which their commission and their brief is really giving you, as a film director, creative license to be given a building and being told, whether you use it as a setting or a backdrop for something that's fictional, or if you want to make a documentary, or if you want to do something experimental or performance-based, whatever you want to do. I mean, that is just a blessing. So to be given a canvas that is a building, which is my first experience, was something very exciting. And I kind of approach that kind of thing as a real opportunity, and it really is an opportunity to be given something like this and go, here, you be you approach this building the way you want to, And they've been so great and trusting us. I'm sure all the other directors would agree, to just allow us to make something. So yeah, I'd be interesting to see if I would do any other architecture stuff, but for now,
maybe this will open doors.
Yeah. So, but
Perhaps
for now, if this is my one building kind of commission, I'm so proud to have been part of it. So yay, I'm happy with it.
I think also Joanna, perhaps you want to say something, because you also, I remember you were a bit destabilized at the beginning when we arrived at the building, and of course we are an architecture firm, so you probably were thinking, oh, they will like me to film the building, you know. So how did you face this?
Well, it was my second experience shooting architecture. As you mentioned, I did a film before called Rosa, but it was a complete different experience because my Rosa film was shot in a house, like in a family house. It was very small, so the approach was completely different. And as you said at the beginning, I was a little bit concerned about this thing. I mean, Kaan Architecten wants me to show the building, so I had this concern, but like I stick on my approach, and these things that I told you before, that the thing that interests me the most of architecture is life living inside buildings. So I think it worked well, and it was very nice to see how every director or its director did his or her own vision, which as Benita says is a pleasure for a director. Like this freedom that you gave us at the end, it translates to creativity, and like it was a gift, let's say, to participate on Minutes.
Yeah, I think one of the key I want to highlight is this. Benita also mentioned the freedom Martina and Kes gave to the directors to let the creativity flow. This is I think this is the success of the base of the success of the short film. We have a question by Chacha Croquet to Martina and Kes. But I think that you kind of already answered, but they say, did you try to keep a unicity, sound ambience, photography, etc., in all the different movies? If yes, how did you do it? I assume that each filmmaker did what they felt, right?
Should I answer, Kes?
Yeah.
Or
Yes,
do you
please.
want to? Okay.
You just-
I think so. Just to say, right now, like it seems that everything has been planned completely, from 2017 to now. But at the beginning, we sincerely had no idea about where we were heading. It was really difficult to understand what the project will become, and so therefore we started with the first film, like here locally in a building that is nearby with a nearby director. And it went really well. And this was a sort of pilot, as the usual series that everybody does, in a small scale. And I think that at the beginning we wanted, my goal also pitching the project to the partners and also discussing this with the colleagues was really like to keep this freedom all the time, And one thing that I didn't mention before is that, of course, we were reaching out to the directors, but also prior to the visits that we could or could not do to the buildings, they also had a chat with the architects, so they got to know about the architecture of the building, so they got to know how we usually present the building. And actually behind the scene, of course, I was pushing them and say, please don't do what we just told you, like don't go this way and don't present it as the PowerPoint that we just show you, This is good for you to know, and it can become something, abstract in a way that it's underlying the movie. But it can become something completely different as well, Just feel free to, generate something completely different, because that's what we look for. Correct me if I'm wrong, Kes.
No, I think this is exactly what happened. And it's also what I said in the introduction. The whole objective was to expel our ghost, you could say. So to sort of have to break our narrative, the story we repeatedly are telling about the project, and have a completely fresh view, fresh interpretation.
Yeah.
So it worked in that sense, although now and then it felt a bit scary, of course, because we didn't know where this would lead, where it was going. And also we felt we needed to have more voices to make it work. So 1, 2, or 3 videos, then we wouldn't know if it would work. But by doing more than that, we could see it as a, you could say a series, minutes, that would prove this sort of hunch we had on this experiment, on what it would do. Doesn't mean that each individual video by itself is a sort of coherent piece, and that can be standalone. It's strong enough. Each video by itself is strong enough to not be part of this series as well, which is really excellent and very good.
Yeah.
And that's, Martina selected very good people to work with, but it was
we were
very,
lucky also.
very good process in that sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think to answer the question, just there was no outside the fact that we had to stand inside a certain amount of minutes, like to be inside the short movie category, and we had certain methodology, to approach the directors, present them the project, visit it. Outside of that, the concept was really like free for the directors, and of course it was in a conversation with us, because we were the commissioners, so it's still a commission film, but I think overall we were lucky enough to have really good concepts, so we didn't really need to go out of the comfort zone of anybody, or like change so much any idea. We just were conversating and having a conversation and perhaps going together somewhere, like discussing this thing, like the choice of black and white, about the sound, about possible actors, So I think it came together naturally, and it's really a pleasure to see all the 12 movies, now together, and it really makes sense in a way. And that's why also we wanted to wait until this point in order to present the project to the public. And some movies had to wait a little bit longer than others because, of course, of the process of production. But I think right now, we are ready to present this as a series. So this is the moment.
Martina and Kes were part of the post-production process? I mean, was it like a surprise what you saw, or you monitored the process, or the directors just gave you the final editing?
No, it depends. Usually we received, like, let's say, a first version. There were no thousands of back and forth. Like, there was a first version that we had a conversation, and usually then a final version will follow. Now, I don't specifically remember how many back and forth there were with the three of you, but I don't remember such a... Do any of you want to share, like, experience about the post-production phase, perhaps?
Well, for me, it was a pleasure because, I used to work on commercials, and this is like a complete nightmare. So for me, it was just, like very relaxed, and everything that you said had a lot of sense. So at the end, I think for me, I felt that it was like a collective, like, let's say, like a thing that we made together. So it's better to like four eyes see more than two eyes, like, so at the end, I remember that as a great process with two eyes.
So we didn't have like thousands of little comments, like it could be like a brand that you work with.
And also you, Martina, you were during the shooting, at least on my shooting, so I think we agreed very much what we were going to shoot there in the shooting, so I think no surprises at the end.
It was Sorry.
Yeah, Martina, go on.
Yeah, it was basically the same experience with everybody. I think this makes sense also to have somebody also from our side to create the link also with the buildings, like the people that are using the building, because most of the time we are in direct contact, so it facilitates everything, also production-wise.
Mm. And Miguel, what makes you more happy or proud of your film? Did you learn anything, something after the shooting? Did you have contact with architecture before?
Yes, as Martina said before, my background is from architecture. I don't consider myself an architect because I finished my studies and I never worked as an architect. So I have this background, and I work. Some of my work is based on filming also architecture. So it's not a new thing for me, I would say. But you asked, sorry.
What makes you more proud, or what do you think is the most remarkable feature of your film?
Like we were talking before, I think it's the two things are connected. Like the process, like Joanna was saying, it was quite easy, the process of to work with Kaan Architecture and with Martina. So this process, I think it takes you to this, I don't know, in my case, and regarding all the difficulties I had, to this really nice feeling about the final results. We are talking about also this process of doing the first edit to show it to, in this case, to the client, and everything that Martina, then the feedback that they gave me, it made all the sense for the final results. So I think in this case, I would say also the process, it was really, really nice, quite easy we had a lot of freedom to propose our idea and for the final result. So yes, I'm quite happy with the final result regarding also this process.
Yeah, I think the most difficult part was actually dealing with the location and the circumstances, which didn't allow to have really like a proper shooting on site. Let's say we had to adapt. I think everybody last year also, and this year as well, have to adapt to different conditions. The two films of Joanna and Benita have been filmed before. Yeah, general, like the COVID crisis. And yours has been filmed later on. So it's completely a different experience. You have less time. You had so much time in between your first visit and your second visit, and the condition of the building changed quite a lot, So yes. You couldn't really choose. I think nobody of the filmmaker actually could choose the period or the building that they were filming, So I was directly approaching them saying, okay, would you like to film this building? And then I was arranging with the location when we could film. So these were some variables that were fixed. So in your case, for example, Miguel, it was November. It was quite a rainy season, for example. And we had to deal with that. Probably in the summer, it would have been also different,
Yeah.
I wonder if there will be another Minute series in the future. Do you know that already?
So for the moment, we are working on the editing of the last of the film that it's part of Minutes, so the 12th film, which is going to be completed soon by Jaime Levinas. We filmed the Royal Museum of Fine Arts in Antwerp this spring, just before, it's been set to build for scenography, so everything, the museum is completely empty. It's a sort of transition time. So that will be the last chapter for the moment. I think for now we're going to stick to the 12 films. So they're going to be presented throughout the year. So I take this occasion to announce that next Monday we're going to launch the official website of Minutes, which is a platform where regularly every month we are going to diffuse the full films of Minutes. So each month there will be one new film by one director. So for a whole year we are going to have screenings, and you will find a lot of information about the directors, the film, the buildings. So stay tuned. And we're also gonna try to organize other live or online events, or possibly live screening as well, you know, in the future of minutes. So, and to keep this discussion active, because you know, we can really talk a lot about what are the possibilities to use film within the architectural field. You know, I think there's so many potentials, and that are not so much exploited yet, you know, because cinema use architecture in such many ways, you know, but architecture doesn't use cinema so much probably as we could, or there's always new limits, you know, as Kees was saying, you know, you have to adapt to the time. And it seems like more and more film festivals like BARC are opening right now. And I think this is also a good occasion to discuss about this, you know, why architects should make films, you know, and not the other way around, like filmmakers use architecture for their films. So these are good.
Yeah, and now you are here as a parallel activity of BARC. I hope next year maybe you can participate in the official selection. But because, for example, we do documentaries, we do not do fiction, but documentary is kind of there's a very thin line between sometimes documentary and experimental. So we also accept some experimental films, and maybe all of these 3 short films could be part of the official selection, and would have been a pleasure to have them. I mean, it's a pleasure to have you as a parallel activity, but it would be also a pleasure to have you in the official selection in competition. So
perhaps screening and the directors presenting, yeah, that would be great.
So I hope next year we can have, maybe you can apply next year.
So I see that we have another question also.
Okay.
Yeah, how did we choose the buildings that we film, actually? So it's a question about how did we pick the movie, the buildings. I think this is, so to tell a bit the background, we understood that we wanted to work with film also because we had 2 positive collaborations before with 2 different directors and 2 different buildings. But these films were made on commission, let's say. It was because of awards and prizes, you know. They were asking us to deliver a film to show a building in order to be selected for a prestigious award. And we noticed that with films, like they were not completely documentary films, they were something a bit different, you know. They were shifting a bit from just having the architect speaking about his own building and saying, look how beautiful it is, you know. It was something a bit different that we were telling. So we thought, okay, why don't we investigate this further? And we started to think, okay, let's pick some buildings and let's try it on, you know, like to see how it's working and do a series. I think we selected buildings that were quite highlights from our portfolio. For example, the Netherlands Embassy in Maputo is quite a you know, really important moment for Kaan Architecten, you know, as well as the Netherlands Forensic Institute. I think they are the oldest projects we filmed, but they're so fundamental for the history of Kaan that it's important to have them. But we also choose buildings that are more recent and buildings that are public or not public, you know. We also included one project that it's more residential. It's a bit probably less mainstream, which is a housing project in Den Bosch. It's a castle, like we call it castle, Hertogenbosch. And it's actually a really curious building, and it's not so much in highlights, you know, but it was nice to see this next to other bigger buildings or big releases that everybody know. Everybody know Utopia, you know, it's quite famous now. And the Chambre des Métiers de l'Artisanat in Lille has also been quite published everywhere. So we wanted to have this variety, really, like of storytelling. So to associate directors to buildings, sometimes it would have seemed like so strange, you know, because, you know, picking Joanna to, that is more from the world of advertisement and commercials, or music video, you know, to work on architectural film on a library, you know, in Belgium, then it's true that it was a bit, risky in a way, but at the same time you go by feeling and you just think, okay, this could work and it could become something really not banal, you know. So that's what we were looking for. And I think the 12 films all tell completely different stories. Another exercise will be to have 12 directors film the same building, you know. You could also do that. But we tried to have like a bigger portfolio to work.
Yeah, I think it's better like that. You chose right, I think. So I don't know if any of you have a last word before we finish. No?
Maybe I would like to still express my thanks to the filmmakers. Of course, they are each of them, not the three only here today, but all of them. They made a fantastic job and surprised us a lot. Though I must say that at the same time, there are the stories are reminiscent, you could say. I mean, Benita, when I went for the first time to Maputo, I was an architect under 40. So for me, it was an opportunity to make a sort of breakthrough. And from the beginning, we knew that this was a chance. We were also at the same time working on the Netherlands Forensic Institute. So there were 2 projects in the office, one in the Netherlands, one in Maputo, both for the Dutch state. One would be very much about building in the Netherlands, very logistics, very important, on time, prefabricated, industrial production, etc. The other completely in an area where we had no clue. We knew it would be craft. And we went there like 25 times, I think, over the years that we did the building. So it was an adventure that I think you relived when you went there with Martina to make the movie, and you met Forjas. And actually, he was the first person that was introduced to me in a dinner with the ambassador when I went for the first time to Maputo, because they thought he could be our local architect. And then, of course, I said, yeah, this person is so an eminent architect at that time. He can never be our local architect. That would be like insult. So that's why we sort of try to stay in touch with him and ask him later in a very humble way to make a contribution to our project. And with Miguel, the CMA, you originally, of course, it would have been a totally different video because of the pandemic. It changed, but in the end, it sort of represented a little bit the feeling I had with the project during a certain stage, where normally I have always a lot of contact with the client and a very intense dialogue and a lot of information going back and forth. With Chambre Métier, this was slightly different. There was very little contact with the client. It was a bit of a almost autistic process. And well, in the end, somehow the noodlot, how you say it, destiny decided that this video would be a video of the building in its emptiness, while it was designed and is designed for a huge mix of users, kids that go there to learn to cook or to go to the hotel school, and people that start a business or that go there for information, etc. So that's really, it really also links, you know, to my experience of the project. And
it happened again.
Perhaps he wanted to say something about Utopia, but
yeah, I guess so.
Sorry, am I still here?
Yes.
Yeah, you are.
It's so full of life. Well, that was exactly the yeah, of course, the whole objective of the project was to have all these little scenes that take place in this building. You have people dancing, making music.
You're talking about Utopia now. Yeah, we missed the
reading a book. And all these scenes are sort of framed by this project. They get their own little podium inside the building. And it was exactly what you took as a point for the film, and then brought it further and into your own experience, the contrast of silence and music, and well, the romantic light and the limitation that you put upon yourself with the video technique that you chose. So yeah, I'm simply yeah, our expectations were far crossed. You know, they were the results of this series is so overwhelming. It's so great. So that's simply what I wanted to tell to you personally, and thank you very much.
No, thank you for inviting us.
Yeah,
It was a privilege.
I agree completely with you, Kes. When I didn't know about Minutes, and it was through a friend that he told me you were doing this, and I said, oh, okay, because it links architecture and cinema, very good. We want to have a talk with them for the festival, etc. But then Martina sent me the links, and I was really amazed by the quality, the use of the cinematographic language, the sensibility, the creativity. I mean, congratulations to these 3 directors and to the other 9 directors that you can see in the Minutes website. So we will finish here. Thanks also for being here, the 4 of you, the 5 of you. And thanks to Cosentino again for having us in this space. See you next year, maybe in BARC or in the official selection. Or I will follow you, these 3 directors' career, because for sure it will be very nice work.
Thank you for having us as a collateral event. This is really nice. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.